The ache of the rearview mirror. We often convince ourselves that the sharpest pain in the human experience is the crash, the break, the ending, the moment everything stops. In the last story, we sat with that feeling. We looked at the finality of goodbyes and how they shatter the world we thought we knew. But as the dust settles and the years begin to stack up, you start to realize that the crash isn't actually the hardest part. The hardest part is the quiet that comes after. It is the long, slow realization that life keeps moving, dragging you further and further away from the people and the versions of yourself that you loved the most. There is a specific kind of hurt that doesn't bruise. It erodes. It is the hurt of realizing that your history is becoming a story you tell, rather than a life you are living. When Adele wrote the album 25, she was stepping out of the fiery, reactive anger of her early 20s and into this strange, suspended space. She called it a make-up record, distinct from the breakup record that came before. But making up with time is infinitely more difficult than breaking up with a lover. You can delete a number. You cannot delete the passage of years. When we were young, masquerades as a love song, or perhaps a song about a specific reunion. But if you listen in the quiet of a late drive or an empty house, you know it is something much larger. It is a confrontation with the reality of aging. It is not a song about him or her. It is a song about us, about the collective grief of growing up and realizing that the magic of your youth isn't something you can just summon back whenever you need it. It is gone, and that realization hits harder the older you get. Picture the setting the song invites you into. It feels like a party, doesn't it? A room where the lighting is low, the noise is a dull roar, and suddenly you see everyone you have ever loved, lost, or left behind, all gathering in one place. It is a dream sequence. It is the movie Adele sings about. In real life, these people are scattered across cities, across marriages, across different lives that no longer intersect with yours. But in the song, for 4 minutes and 50 seconds, time collapses. You are all together again. And that is why it hurts. Because you know, even as you listen, that this party can never actually happen. There is a profound loneliness in realizing that your memories are fragmented. You hold one piece of the puzzle, and an old friend holds another, but you haven't spoken in 5 years. When we were young, taps into the desperate desire to put those pieces back together, just for one night. It asks the question, what would happen if we could just sit in a room and look at each other without the baggage of who we became? What if we could just be who we were? You start to understand, as you get older, that the tragedy isn't that people leave. The tragedy is that people change. You change. The version of you that laughed until your ribs ached at 21 is not the same version of you that navigates bills and grief and responsibilities today. When Adele sings, you look like a movie. You sound like a song. She isn't just complimenting an old flame. She is describing the surreal quality of the past. When you run into someone from your history, they don't feel real. They feel like a walking piece of art, a preserved artifact from a time when the world was brighter, louder, and infinitely more dangerous. This is where the nostalgia begins to bite. Nostalgia is often painted as a warm, fuzzy feeling, a comfort blanket we wrap ourselves in. But the Greek root of the word literally translates to the pain of returning home. It is an ache. It is the realization that the home you are looking for, the time, the feeling, the specific quality of light in your first apartment no longer exists. You can go back to the physical place, but you cannot go back to the time. Adele captures this futility perfectly. The song sounds like a desperate attempt to hold water in your hands. You can feel it slipping through your fingers, even as you sing along. Consider the line, "Let me photograph you in this light, in case it is the last time." It is perhaps one of the most devastating lyrics written in modern pop music, because it admits defeat. It acknowledges that this moment is a fluke. It is an anomaly. We are here, right now, looking at each other, but the clock is ticking. The light she speaks of isn't just the ambient lighting of a party. It is the light of recognition. It is that brief, fleeting moment where you look at an old friend and see the teenager they used to be, peering out from behind adult eyes. You want to freeze it. You want to prove it happened. We take photographs to stop time, but every photograph is also a tiny tombstone. It marks a moment that is dead. As you age, your phone, your albums, your boxes in the closet fill up with these tombstones. You look at them, and you don't just see a fun night out. You see a version of yourself that believed the night would never end. The pain of when we were young comes from the realization that you didn't know you were in the good old days until you had already left them. You didn't know that was the last time you'd all be in the same room. You didn't know that was the last time you'd feel that specific kind of invincible. There is a fear that runs beneath the melody, a fear deeper than heartbreak. It is the fear of being forgotten. I'm so mad I'm getting old. It makes me reckless, she confesses. Why does aging make us reckless? Because we are terrified of becoming invisible. When you are young, you are the protagonist of the universe. Everything that happens to you feels monumental, but as you age, the world demands you settle down. It demands you become quieter, more practical. The recklessness Adele sings about is a rebellion against the fading of the light. It is a desire to feel something sharp and vivid again, even if it hurts. You might find yourself looking for that feeling in dangerous places. You might text someone you shouldn't, or drive too fast down a familiar road, just to see if you can trigger the old adrenaline. It's not about the action itself. It's about the desperate need to prove that you are still that person. You are still the main character. You haven't just faded into the background of someone else's life. But the song gently, firmly reminds you, you cannot run from time. The recklessness is just a reaction to the grief, and it is a grief. We rarely talk about the grief of aging because we are told it is a privilege. And it is, but it is also a loss. You lose your edges. You lose your certainty. When Adele sings about the way you felt before, she is touching on a universal amnesia. We forget how intense feelings used to be. We forget how it felt to have your heart broken for the very first time, or how it felt to drive with the windows down when you had nowhere to be. As adults, we are often too tired for that intensity. We have protective layers now. We have armor. The song strips that armor away and leaves us shivering, remembering what it was like to feel everything with zero protection. The concept of the movie is crucial here because movies have endings. Real life just goes on. In a movie, the reunion is the climax. The couple kisses in the rain, or the friends toast to the future, and the screen fades to black. We leave the theater feeling satisfied. But in life, after the reunion, you have to go home. You have to wake up for work. You have to go back to the life you built away from these people. When we were young, hurts because it highlights the gap between the cinematic moments we crave and the mundane reality we live in. It reminds us that the movie is over. We are in the post-credits scene now. Think about the people you have lost not to death, but to life. The best friend from high school you swore you know forever. The college roommate who knew your darkest secrets. The first love who taught you how to argue. Where are they now? They are walking around in the world, carrying pieces of your history with them. If they forget those stories, do the stories disappear? This is the anxiety that propels the song. We need these people to remember us, because they are the only witnesses to who we were when we were forming. If they are gone, or if they forget, then that version of us ceases to exist. This is why we cling to the idea of the party. We want to gather the witnesses. We want them to look at us and validate our past. You were there. We want to say, you saw me. You knew me when I was wild. You knew me when I was dreaming. The validation is addictive. But the song resolves, or rather, it fails to resolve, with the acceptance that you cannot force people to stay. You cannot force them to remember you the way you want to be remembered. You can only ask for the photograph. You can only ask for the moment. The lyrics shift from the external to the internal. It was just like a movie. It was just like a song. By the end, she is repeating it like a mantra, trying to convince herself. The repetition sounds like someone trying to memorize a face before it fades. It suggests that the memory is already becoming slippery. Even the reunion, if it happened, is now in the past. The moment you are singing about is already gone. The last time has already happened. There is a specific cruelty in how music works as a time machine. You hear the opening chords, and suddenly you are 22 again. You can smell the cheap perfume, feel the sticky floor of the bar, taste the bad wine. But then the song ends. The silence that follows is louder than it was before. That silence is the gap between who you were and who you are. When we were young is a masterclass in widening that gap, letting you look into the abyss of it, and then leaving you there. It doesn't offer a solution. It doesn't say, but it's better now. It just acknowledges the loss. As we get older, we accumulate more lasts. The last time we played outside. The last time we slept in our childhood bed. The last time we saw a grandparent. Most of these lasts pass without us noticing. We don't know it's the final time until years later, when we look back and realize we never went back. Adele's plea to photograph you in this light is a wish to identify the last while it is happening. It is a wish for awareness. It is a plea to the universe. Let me know this is ending so I can appreciate it. But life rarely grants that request. We usually drive away from the moment thinking we will be back next week. We say, "See you soon," to people we will never see again. The song hurts because it forces us to confront how careless we were with our time. We thought we had so much of it. We spent it recklessly, thinking the supply was infinite. Now, looking back, we see how precious those boring, quiet, standard Tuesday nights were. We see that they were the building blocks of our lives, and we can never get them back. The fear of the future is scary, but the fear of the past is haunting. The past is a ghost that follows you. In the song, the you Adele sings to is a mirror. When she looks at this person, she sees her own reflection. She sees the passage of time etched on their face, and therefore on hers. It is a confrontation with mortality. We were young. Past tense. We are not young anymore. And what comes next is the slow fade. This brings us to the texture of the song itself, the swelling production, the choir, the soulful ache in her voice. It sounds like a hymn for the living. It treats the memories with reverence. It tells us that even if the time is gone, it mattered. The pain you feel listening to it is proof that it mattered. If it didn't hurt to look back, it would mean you didn't love any of it enough. The grief is the price of the love. The nostalgia is the receipt for the life you lived. Ultimately, the song is about the realization that you are the keeper of your own museum. You walk through the halls of your mind, looking at the portraits of who you used to be, and you realize you are the only one who visits this often. Others have moved on. They have built new wings in their own museums. But you are still standing in front of the exhibit labeled "When We Were Young," staring at the display case, wishing you could touch the artifacts. It feels devastating, but there is a strange beauty in it. To miss something so deeply means you had something worth missing. To feel the sting of "I'm so mad, I'm getting old" means you loved being young. You loved the chaos. You loved the uncertainty. You survived it, and now you have the privilege of missing it. That is the duality the song leaves us with. We are sad that it is over, but we are so lucky that it happened. The final notes of the song fade out, leaving you back in your quiet room, back in your current age, back in your reality. The movie screen goes dark. The party is over. You are left with the silence. And in that silence, you have to decide what to do with the memory. Do you let it haunt you? Or do you treat it like the photograph she asked for, a still image, captured in the perfect light, that you can look at, smile at, and then put back in the drawer so you can continue with your day. It is not about living in the past. It is about honoring it without letting it consume you. It is about recognizing that the you from 10 years ago would be amazed by the you of today, even if you feel tired, even if you feel old. You made it. You survived the heartbreak, the recklessness, the growing pains. You are the result of all those moments. So as we sit with this feeling, as we let the echo of the song settle in the air around us, I want to leave you with a question. It's not a question to answer for me, or for the comments, or for anyone else. It is a question for you to hold in the quiet of your own mind. When you close your eyes and think about the movie of your life, is there a specific scene you keep replaying, not because you want to change it, but simply because you are terrified that if you stop watching, you might finally forget how it felt to be that version of you?